Hello and welcome. So I like Warhammer 40k, and with me having a new printer nowadays, I thought I wonder if I can print one of these starships in Warhammer 40k, particularly the GLORIANA Class, or however you say that. And it got to me to thinking, I wonder if I can print out a version that is actually scaled to the miniatures. I wonder how big that would be. I thought it'd actually be quite doable, you do it in sections. But then I started to do the maths, and this is what I found.
So for the lesser initiated in the Warhammer 40k universe, what are these ships? So these are some of the biggest ships in the Warhammer 40k universe, made for the Emperor's Great Crusade in the 30th millennium, some of which still survive into the 40th millennium, and are certainly matching Warhammer 40,000's overall overpowered theme, these being tremendously large and tremendously powerful. And while of course they are bristling with world-ending weaponry and some rather nice gothic archers and stained glass windows, because it's 40k of course, the main statistic that is relevant for this video is that they are a whopping 26 kilometres long. Now this does differ a little bit ship to ship. Some of the Primarchs wanted theirs a little bit different, but this is the typical figure given. Now when it comes to understanding and thinking about the size of such a thing, it has the same problem that you do find in other sci-fi genres like Star Wars, where they have a Super Star Destroyer that is 19 kilometres long. And that is that this is just such a massive ship that you can't really comprehend what size that would be in real life. So let's try to do some size comparisons to truly understand how big this thing is. Thankfully, I was able to find a 3D print file online, which is actually scaled to 2.6 metres long, making it a 1 to 10,000 scale. It is worth noting for the Warhammer nerds out there, out of the STL files that are online, some of them look different to others, and the artwork can differ quite a lot, particularly on the thickness of the ships in relation to the length and how big these wings are on the sides. But nevertheless, we'll go over to a first size comparison at the English Channel. Now at its narrowest point is about 21 miles wide, so it is quite the narrow shipping lane. So just how far out would a GLORIANA class actually stick out from England towards France? Well, even with my low quality graphics, you can see it sticks out pretty damn far, with it stretching around 2/3 of the way to France. But what if this was your Primarch super yacht and you wanted to go park it at the Palm in Dubai? Well, I think that's going to have quite the docking fee. What about if you had to make it under the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco? I mean, I think the cannon might fit under the bridge, but other than that... The thing is though, even with these size comparisons, it's still very difficult to kind of imagine the real world size of this. But I think I found out a way to fully grasp the scale of what these ships would be. And I realised this when I was thinking, I wonder if I could actually just make a GLORIANA class that's actually scaled to the miniatures, so that is in with scale to a regular Space Marine miniature. So to work this out, we need to know what scale a regular Space Marine miniature is actually in. And the scale they're normally called is 28 or 35mm, but that's down to the base size. When you try to research what the scale of a Space Marine or just general Warhammer actually is, the closest answer you can generally find is 1 to 64, which does make sense when you think of other types of models like airfixers and other model aircraft kits. So then you just need to divide 26,000 metres by 64, so you get a metre reading, which comes in at, wait for it, 400 metres long for a miniature model that is to scale. Which means the scale miniature model would be the same length as the largest container ships on the planet, all of which come in around 400 metres long, for the simple reason they won't fit through docks and canals if they're any bigger. This actually dawned on me when I was trying to work out how big just the bow would be, because I was thinking maybe I can have like a wall mount of the bow kind of coming out of the wall like it's coming out of the warp. And I thought maybe that can be a miniature size. And then I worked out the size of the bow in height, and the bow would have to be 50 metres tall to be in scale with the miniatures. In fact, this model stood on its end would be nearly 100 metres taller than the Shard in London and 20 metres taller than the Empire State Building. It would be 130 metres longer than USS Missouri and 50 metres longer than the Gerald R. Ford class of aircraft carrier. But what about if you wanted to put a cathedral-like structure on top of this miniature model? How big would that be? Well, while it would be a little bit long, you would actually be able to fit York Minster on top of this miniature model. With a length of 160 metres, a width of 68, it would just about squeeze on top. And with a height of 70 metres, it might not actually look that far out of place, at least in the 40k setting. Now, interestingly, the Sagrada Familia, if I'm saying that right, is actually quite a short and narrow building, even though it is going to be very tall when it eventually gets finished. That being 90 metres long and 60 metres wide. So that too would fit on this miniature model, although it would look a bit out of place in height because that is meant to be 170 meters when finished. So now I've established that I definitely can't 3D print a Gloriana class in regular Warhammer miniature size. What size can I print it in? Well, this STL is 1 to 10,000 scale and it's 2.6 meters long. Now, I can't validate printing the entire 2.6 meters, of course, but I could do the bow. And do the bow like it is a wall mount, so it's like it's coming out of the warp, like it's coming out of the wall. So I'll break off the front of the bow of the model and get that printed, and we'll see what it's actually like. And what I can tell you is this print turned out to be even bigger than I thought. I had to print it in 9 pieces and then glue it all together. Certainly use more plastic than I thought I was going to do. Actually late getting this video out because I had to order some more filament. But nevertheless, I did get it all put together and it does look pretty cool. If I put this old Primaris model next to it, you can see the size of the print itself. Without the gun on the bottom, it is about 400mm by 400 by 400 again. Kind of fits in a 400mm box. It's all about between a 2 and 5% infill, depending on which piece it is. And it's still got to be best part of at least, I'd say 2 kilos in filament. Something that's even relevant on this scale size at this size is that the layer height is 0.25mm. And at 1 to 10,000 scale, that means that each layer height is the equivalent of 2.5 meters, if this was the real thing. Meaning that each layer is basically the height of a firstborn Space Marine, at least out of armour. So if you were going to make a Space Marine model that matched this scale, it would be no taller than 0.3mm. As I'd come this far, I thought I may as well get it loosely attached to the wall and see what it actually looks like as a wall mount. I think it looks pretty cool. Again, as I said earlier, how accurate this particular 3D model actually is to Gloriana Class is just really hard to say. I think you can only make it truly accurate if you pick a particular one like the Eternal Crusader, just because there's not really enough artwork out on every individual Gloriana that existed. But either way, it certainly fits the 40k theme. And if this was painted up perhaps with some LEDs behind it, like it's coming out of the warp, I think it'd make a pretty good addition to a game room.
However, I only have one place suitable to put this, and that is on the wall behind you, which you can see has one suit of bulletproof armour kind of blocking off another side, and then the other side is going to be taken up by the next suit, which I will be working on for next week. So instead, I'm going to put this on eBay if anyone's interested. It's a pretty smooth print overall, but I would say you need to do some sanding on the lines, maybe some priming and filling to get a decent paint job out of it. And the money for it will go into the carbon fibre bill for the next suit anyway. So I'll put a link in the description for that. I hope you enjoyed this little 40k nerd video where I just kind of went into my curiosity. But next week we'll be back onto the exoskeleton for the next prototype, which will be the arms. I'm just waiting for the carbon fibre to turn up so I can get machining. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this little video. Please like, subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next one.